Cash America, celebrating 25 years of innovation, leadership, service, advances, technology, and growth. A true business success story that began through the eyes of Jack Daugherty, the man behind the vision.
Jack's always thought just a little outside the box.
Jack is a classic entrepreneur. You know, he's got 1,000 ideas.
He took me in his office and started elaborating about this huge dream of having hundreds, if not thousands, of pawn shops. He was right on target.
Car audio, big
change. You know, an AM radio is what cars came with when I first went business.
Even today, Jack still likes walking the floors. And yes, things have changed, but not everything.
Now there's something that doesn't change very much. Guitars are one of those things that, although the technology has changed some, there's more good old ones around than there are good new ones.
And he should know, a guitar is exactly how Jack says this story begins. And if you sit him down, he'll tell you all about it.
Well, hey, Jack, thanks for joining us this morning.
Happy to be here.
Tell us a little bit about how you got into the business, how you started with pawn and why pawn, and a little bit about your thoughts when you started.
My father died when I was 16, and when I went to college, really couldn't afford to go to college. Went to junior college out in West Texas at Ranger, Texas. Took an old guitar that I had, a Gibson guitar, and a Model 12 Winchester shotgun. That's back when you took your gun to college with you, you know. That's been a long time ago.
Times have changed.
Times have changed. And when I wouldn't have money for a date or for gasoline or for whatever, well, in Eastland, Texas, there was a pawn shop. And I'd take the Gibson guitar and the Model 12 Winchester over there, and I'd pawn it. I pawned them probably 100 times a piece. Well, I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I thought, boy, this would be a great business to get into.
Jack learned the ropes from a seasoned pawnbroker by working in his shop for 90 days without pay.
And the 90th day, he got in the car with me, and he drove over to Irving, Texas, where I lived. And you remember the old #1 store over there? We found it was an empty building next to a Kawasaki motorcycle dealership. And he said, this is it. This is where you need to do it.
His stepfather loaned him the $25,000 required in financial security so he could get a license. Of course, today, it costs 6 times that.
Now, how did you go from one store to the next set of stores? How did you realize, or when did you realize, hey, I've got a little industry here that I can grow?
I took off a brief time and went into the oil business and lost my shirt, but the oil business taught me that I could raise money. And so my battle cry became that there were no dry holes in the pawn shop business, and they were available.
He saw an opportunity, moved, he had great passion, believed he could do something when everybody told him he was crazy. You know, he had all the bankers in the world telling him he was nuts. I've been around the organization for 25 years and first got involved with Jack as an investor back in 1984 and came on full-time in 1988. So I've seen the entire gamut from the first few shops to the billion-dollar business that we are today. And people laughed when they talked about making Cash America a public company. You can never take pawn shops public, people would say. You know, in a typical entrepreneur fashion, he just ignored all that. And he had his eye on getting it done, and you know, again, was very, very persistent.
Well, once you did start to grow, how did you assemble your first team? Was it just friends, people, work colleagues from other industries, or?
I didn't have so many family members, a couple, but we had lots of friends.
Randy worked for Jack to start with, and I grew up with Jack.
The old Cash America days, we were learning by the seat of our pants. We trusted Jack. I mean, he's always, you know, been a man of his word, and we did. Sometimes we scratched our heads, but we always trusted.
He was of the opinion, as were all of us, if it worked, and if we ever got to 100 stores, that was as good as it gets. It doesn't get any better.
Well, a loan balance back then, if we had a loan balance of 140,000, we thought we were, slaying the dragon, because that was unheard of.
Now, in those early years, were there times where you thought to yourself, boy, what have I done? Have I made a mistake? I don't see this business growing like it should, and, when were those moments?
Well, a lot of times it was on Friday when I had to pay everybody.
We would get the call from John Eskridge, who was our comptroller at that time. Okay, the money's in the bank, you can go. And then we'd break out and try to get the checks to the folks so they could have money for the weekend.
There were a lot of doubts. We didn't know whether we were going to make it.
Yeah.
There was many times we didn't know when we were going to make it, but the people that were there just had this uncanny ability to keep going forward and keep growing this and keep preaching the mission statements that we had that we didn't even know we had.
Jack's philosophy was simple.
Caring for the customer and caring for those people on the front line in the shops. It's just fundamentally the most important thing we need to do.
And I want to give Dan Feehan credit for that. There was a point after Dan came up here that he wanted to adopt a customer-friendly but also a team member-friendly attitude that would be key to us being able to grow the thing.
Well, I give Jack credit because it was his vision of what we needed to do with the business, and we knew as well that in order for us to really treat the customer extraordinarily well, we had to change the culture of the early Cash America and begin treating our people very well at the same point in time. So that's part of what I brought to the table, I think, in the early days of, we really have to take care of our people and provide the right compensation programs, the right benefit programs, and treat them with the same respect and dignity that we expect them to then transfer on to our customers. And Jack's one of the few people I've ever met who recognize that, and probably one of the smartest entrepreneurs because of that I've ever met as well.
Jack, there's a lot of Jackisms in around the building and a lot of Jack stories. And
Can't believe everything you hear.
And one of them is that you actually secured the company with a coin collection that still sits in the bank today. Is that a true story?
That's a fact.
Have you been over to see the
No,
coins
but I
lately?
know it's still there because I remember it. It was mine.
Okay.
But it's something that the company really ought to keep.
You've heard the story of a guy coming in to rob Jack, and Jack ended up making a loan on the pistol. I'm not sure whether Jack embellished that, but it sounds good, and I know it did happen to some degree. We had a guy picket in the store when I first came to work for Cash America, and I'd never seen anything like this, and I was still trying to figure out what a pawn shop was. And the guy was picketing out front, and I said, what's the guy out here for? And he said, well, we've lost his ring and manager didn't handle it very well. I looked up and Jack's out walking with him back and forth. Then all of a sudden Jack's got his arm around him, walking back and forth. Then next thing I know, the guy's got the sign down, he's in there in the shop filling out a job application. So Jack had just that way of dealing with folks.
And a way of building an organization with a future just as bright as its past.
Now, we've gotten off into a lot of other things and we've made some money in some of them. But the key to the business, the floor, the foundation, is the pawn shop industry. So I think there's a future for it.
When you think about what you've created, what are some of the best moments in this business, some of the best memories that you have of going from one store to, a $1 billion business?
I could tell you 1,000 things that happened along the way that was very rewarding. But the bottom line is the thing that I'm proudest of is the fact that we've created jobs for, family income for all these people. I wake up and I think, Cash America is a $1 billion company on the New York Stock Exchange. And it's got several thousand people that have jobs and feed their family because of it. And how it got started from that one store, It's absolutely a miracle. It's a gift from God is what it is.
Well, Jack, I got to tell you, it's been a pleasure talking with you this morning. I appreciate you taking some time out of your schedule to answer some questions for us.
As I leave, let me give you some advice.
All right.
These people that work with you, be good to them. And the customers, be good to them too. And they'll always take care of you.
Absolutely.
And thank you for having me today.
Thanks for sharing your thoughts. Appreciate it.
You can see the future unfolding in front of us. The vision just keeps growing.
I guess the fondest part of that is to see the impact that we've had on the industry.
Is that a wrap? All right.
Can they keep this microphone? I kind of like it.
I kind of like that too.
Yeah, it's a pretty.
Makes me feel special.
Yeah, I could walk around with it all day.
Is there anything y'all want to get out to show or look
I can
at?
try to sell you a watch.
What are you interested in? Would your wife like a set of deer studs? We got you fixed up over here.
But it's embellished pretty significantly by the time. The older he gets and the longer it goes, the bigger the story gets.
So, Jack, tell us a little bit about how you got into the business, how you started with pawn, and why pawn. And
I was broke and I didn't have any choice.
What are you doing for lunch?
Hey, my pager's gone up.